Thanks for joining us and staying with us this morning. We're joined by Earl Lewis, who's the Assistant Director of the Kansas Water Office. Earl, thanks for joining us this morning.
You bet. Thanks, Brian.
Week-long tour of the state of Kansas. It's tiring, I would imagine, but we've got the first draft of the governor's 50-year water plan. How was that received in the state?
You know, I think overall it was received really pretty well. Like you say, we went on a week-long tour, and it was both tiring as well as exhilarating. We had very good turnout, made 12 stops across the state, and got an opportunity to talk to more than 800 Kansans about the plan, and really good response. I think we had a lot of folks that had taken the time to really look through it and think about it, make some very positive comments, and as you might expect, different comments from different folks. Mm-hmm. But overall, I think folks are happy that we're talking about the issue and trying to move things forward.
You can't fix everything with one rule. I mean, some people are going to be happy with it, some people aren't. But the overall reaction to it, was it positive?
I think so. You know, we certainly, the plan came out of 7 months worth of listening to a number of stakeholder groups and people all across the state. Before we got to this point, we had 160 meetings with anybody that would talk to us, and talked to roughly 9,000 people in those 160 meetings. So we hope that we've done a pretty good job of capturing that input and really condensing it down to something that folks in Kansas can understand and get behind.
Well, water's just not an ag issue. I mean, it's a way of life issue here in the state of Kansas. Along the tour last week, did you see people who weren't involved in ag, who just wanted to come out and kind of have their voice heard? You
bet, and I think that's probably the most exciting thing about this whole process has been that we're seeing a lot of people get involved in the discussion, a lot of people providing input that maybe we haven't traditionally seen at some of our meetings. And like you say, it's not just ag folks, it's as you know, water touches us, every person, every single day. And I think people are getting more and more comfortable talking about it and understand the issue.
One part of the state may have different needs than the other part of the state. On the tour, is that kind of what you saw? I mean, from one side of the state to the other?
You bet. You know, we started out this as a statewide water vision, but certainly what we have heard time and time again, both before and certainly on this tour, was that the issues in any part of the state are not consistent with issues in the other part of the state. And one thing we definitely heard was that we needed to have regional goals, regional plans, so that it wasn't just a one-size-fits-all, because what affects, say, southwest Kansas doesn't necessarily have the same effect in northeast or southeast Kansas.
And again, it doesn't matter where you live, water's going to touch you one way or the other.
You bet. We all use water every single day, and having a growing awareness of water and the issues we face is very important.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to finish up with Earl, and we're going to talk about some of the things that are actually in the first draft of the governor's 50-year water plan. You're watching Kansas Ag Report, and we'll see you in just a minute.
This segment brought to you by Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. Farmers Insurance, your best protection against the unexpected. Call Agent Dan Key at 785-408-5459. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com. Blue River Traders, the finest selection of Western-style furniture for your home. BlueRiverTraders.com.
Thanks for staying with us this morning. And we're at the Kansas Water Office, and we're joined by Earl Lewis, who's the Assistant Director. And Earl, thanks for staying with us through the commercial break.
You bet.
Let's talk about some of the highlights that are in the first draft.
You bet. And so, you know, what I think we heard early in the process is really that Kansans don't want this to be a top-down process. They really want a number of these things to come from the citizens themselves. And I think that that's even reflected in the vision. The very first word in the vision is Kansans. And so we want to make sure that the things we have in the vision, the plan, really are things that Kansans can get behind. This is really a top-down mandate. It's more about trying to all come together to solve this problem. You know, and the way that it's kind of structured is we still need to do a lot of work on what the goals we want to achieve over the next 10, 20, 50 years. But what we heard really was that there's some things we need to do in really 4 categories. First, water conservation. which is pretty self-explanatory. But there's a lot of folks that really see the need for us to conserve and extend our resources across the state and do a better job of that at the individual level, at the farm level, at the city level, at every level. The next section really was water management, making sure that we're doing a good job of managing our resources, whether that's groundwater or our reservoirs, and trying to do a better job of improving that and work better with other states and working better with our federal partners. The third thing we heard a lot about was new technology and crop varieties, and that there's a lot of things coming, a lot of Kansas companies out there doing a lot of great work to improve our technology all across the state. We want to make sure we're supporting that. And as our water resources become more stressed, we want to make sure that we have the crop varieties that will respond to that. Final thing really was when all those things don't necessarily solve the problem, what about new sources of supply? Whether that's transferring water, whether that's new reservoirs, cleaning up some of the brackish water, salt water we have in the state, really try and bring some sources into play here. And so that kind of was a lot of the feedback we heard, really it's what's shown in the plan today.
Was there anything within the plan that met with some resistance, I guess?
You bet. And I think as we went ahead across the state, we heard a number of things that maybe were a little more controversial, and we made a conscious decision that we really wanted to quell that discussion. And so some things within the Water Appropriation Act, our water rights, are still in the plan. We want to have discussion about that. We don't really want to stop that discussion today.
We just have a few seconds here left. Where do we go from here, Or?
You bet. We're really just in the middle of this process, and we want to take the opportunity, if folks have groups that they'd like us to come out and talk to, we want to hear from them. You can find the plan on the Kansas Water Office website at kdbo.org, and you can provide comments there. We want to hear from you and try and make this plan even better going towards the Governor's Conference in November 12th and 13th in Manhattan.
Now, do you have another scheduled stop, or are we just going to wait till we get to that conference?
Well, we'll have to see what kind of feedback we get. I think there might be another draft in between here, but certainly our final unveiling of our draft will be in the conference in Manhattan.
Well, thank you for your time. Water is just not an issue that pertains to agriculture or pertains to everybody here in the state of Kansas. And I think we all need to do our part to ensure that we've got clean, fresh drinking water from moving forward for everybody. You're watching Kansas Ag Report, and we'll see you in just a minute.